delighted to be joined by Ralph Cox. Ralph, you've been in Belfast a couple of times now, and you're starting to become some sort of resident here.
Yeah, well, I would like to. I'll tell you, it's one of the great cities in the world, and that comes from a lot of experience. I've traveled extensively in Asia and lived in Europe for 6 years, and I have to say Belfast is right up there, some of the top cities in the world. It's really a lot of fun and always a pleasure to be here.
And obviously you're over for the pre-work being done leading into the NCAA Friendship 4, which is coming here back to Belfast in 4 weeks' time.
Yeah, no, and people in the United States now, or in New England and Boston, are very excited. Last year, they weren't really sure what it was. They kept hearing about what it could be. And then we had 4 great teams play a fantastic tournament last year. And this year, teams were fighting over there. They were really arguing. There's a lot of teams that wanted to play. So now we're almost set up for a few years to go. There's teams that are really pulling hard and pushing hard at the commissioners to have an opportunity to be able to play in the Friendship 4. It's really starting to mean something special over there in the United States, where there's a lot of tournaments that you can go, and it's just about the hockey and trying to win the games, which is, of course, what will happen here, but it's become something bigger. And the teams and the colleges and the players over there are starting to recognize that the Friendship 4 stands for about using sports as a way of making people better human beings to some extent, and really reaching out into the community. So there's high expectations for this year's tournament, and it's going to have 4 great teams. It should be one of the great tournaments ever played.
Those 4 teams: St. Lawrence, Quinnipiac, Vermont, and UMass.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the UMass Lowell wanted to make appearance and try and regain their crown that they won last year for the Bellpot.
They would have come back in 2 seconds, but we wanted 4 new teams. We want to spread the wealth around a little bit. And let Belfast see the other magnificent colleges that we have, and try to encourage maybe an opportunity for some kids here in Belfast to start thinking about attending one of these schools. But Quinnipiac and St. Lawrence, which are 2 of the nationally ranked teams in the United States, and they'll be facing off against each other. It'll be one of the great hockey games of the college season coming up. Either one of them could win the national championship. So you're going to see some great hockey this year. And
they face each other before they come to Belfast in 4 weeks' time.
They will. So this is going to be kind of a home-and-home series for them. And it's a tremendous rivalry. I mean, Quinnipiac won the national title 2 years ago. They were in the finals again, I think, a year ago. And St. Lawrence is one of those teams that's always in the top 10, and they want a little revenge. They want to come back, and they want to show that they belong in the top echelons of U.S. hockey.
So the teams that came last year, although being 4 fantastic colleges and 4 fantastic hockey teams that came here, the teams that we've got coming to Belfast for the Friendship 4 this year, just that little bit higher in the group stages?
Well, as a group, now you have 4 teams this year. Any one of them could win the national championship. Last year, you would say going into it that UMass Lowell was the only team that really had a chance to win the national championship. And they were in the Final 4. So, it was a great tournament. It's hard to say you can have a better tournament, but I do think that the teams this year, there's 4 great teams, and like I said, any one of them could be, they'll probably all end up in the top 10, and any one of them could win the national championship.
It's not just the hockey that these kids that are coming over to play hockey that are here for. It's leading into the schools. It's trying to bring the STEM project back to Northern Ireland as well, and that was really important last year.
Yeah, I think the STEM program is really important for the universities, and they, from the athletic directors to the presidents of the school to the coaches, they realize their players are coming over here themselves for an education. Again, it is not just to win the tournament. Of course, they'd all like to, and they'll all play great, but they realize that there's more going on here, and they have a sort of a community obligation to get out into the schools and visit the school kids, and which is really heartwarming. And it was a huge success when I went back last year and we debriefed with the coaches and the players. They actually said the highlight for them was the opportunity to go out into the schools and meet the school children and have the kids in the school teach them something that they've learned in their life, and for the college athletes to try to do the same for the kids. And it was really an unexpected treasure of an opportunity. And I think the players coming this year are looking forward to that as much as anything else.
the business partnerships which have been formed over the last number of years. Robert Fitzpatrick, from the CEO from the Odyssey Trust, has reached out to Marty Walsh from Boston as well, who's the Lord Mayor, and then the new Lord Mayor in Belfast has embraced it as well.
Yeah.
And you've obviously spent time at the City Hall this week while you've been here.
I did spend time with him yesterday at City Hall and again last night at the game, and he is ecstatic about the tournament. He saw the benefits to the community and showcasing Belfast. Right, there's maybe 1,000 people that will be visiting over the tournament, and they all will go back and say wonderful things. So, the restaurants did well last year. The hotels were full. The stands were full. He had so you hit on I think the three major points of the sister agreement. Educational exchanges, cultural exchanges, and economic exchanges. And I think Robert Fitzpatrick, really was possibly his brainchild. I mean, it was his idea to try to bring professional hockey here, and then also have a college tournament that was world class. And he managed to get enough people excited by it, and including the people in Boston. I mean, and the mayor of Boston. I mean, the mayor of Boston is 100% behind this, and he sees the benefit of the Friendship Four and what it can do to the communities on both sides, both Belfast and Boston. And then it stretches into, there's a lot of companies doing business in Boston and in Belfast, and now they're starting to look at promoting it, sponsoring it, and then having they're looking for marketing opportunities if they're recruiting talent here in Belfast, and they can bring a group of their sales force here to the Friendship Four and show that they're sort of a cool and hip company. So there's actually a lot of good stories that are going to come out of it this year.
Obviously, NI Connections are really putting their whole force behind this and bringing the NCAA to college hockey to Belfast again. Last year, there's been 5 players who were here last year, and I'm just trying to gauge the standard of hockey that people can expect to come when they're in Northern Ireland for the NCAA tournament. There's 5 players that played here last year, have already played in the NHL.
They're already playing in the National Hockey League. Yeah, no, it is as good a hockey as you'll find, I think, after the National Hockey League. You'll find kids this year who will play in this tournament, and there'll be at least 5 who will be playing in the National Hockey League again next year. It's really something. I mean, it's the highest level of hockey you can play outside of playing in the National Hockey League, which is the best league in the world.
I was lucky enough to interview Nick Lappin last year, yes. And the passion that he had for his sport, and obviously coming over to Northern Ireland as well, and he loved the experience while he was here, and he's playing games for the New Jersey Devils.
And he's probably waiting for the day he can play for the Giants.
Well, I wouldn't go that far just yet.
You will see. There'll be a time you and I will be sitting here, I believe, and there'll be players who played for one of these college teams who will be over here playing for the Giants and think it was a wonderful experience in their life.
I hope it's not that far down the road, because the guys that were here last year really, really impressed me, and I know that there's a lot of people looking forward to the NCAA coming in 4 weeks' time.
Yeah, I hope everybody in Belfast really embraces it. I think they're going to see some great hockey, and they're going to meet some wonderful kids who want to experience all the great things that Northern Ireland and Belfast has to offer. And I don't think no one is going to go home disappointed this year.
Ralph, I know we were here talking about the NCAA, but I've been really looking forward to having a chat with you, and I want to know some bits and pieces about. You used to play hockey before yourself?
I played a little bit, yes. Back in the day, I played in Boston, and I was drafted by the Boston Bruins. I played at the University of New Hampshire, who I hope will be here in 2 or 3 years' time. Steve Saviano, who is out there and one of your fine players today, is a graduate of the University of New Hampshire. I went on after that, and I played in the 1979 World Cup for the U.S. team in Moscow. Herb Brooks was the coach, and at the end of that tournament, he asked me if I would play on the 1980 team, which a lot of people in the U.S. will consider that one of the finest moments in American sports history. And he was a great coach, and the players that were on that team were all great players. Many went on and had fantastic Hall of Fame type NHL careers. I chose to come and actually play in Europe. I played for 6 years in Finland, Austria, and Switzerland.
It's not a bad record, right? And obviously, touching on the 1980 Lake Placid Olympics, and can you tell us a story about exactly what happened? You broke your.
I broke my ankle, but I was there. It's hard to put in words what was taking place at the United States at that time, and we were really in kind of a Cold War conflict, at that time, and then the hockey team really started to bring the country together in every game because there was such, I'd say, low expectations. The Russian team, the Czech team, either one of them were expected to win. The Russian team was one of the finest hockey teams ever assembled, and they had beaten the U.S. team 10-1 in an exhibition game just a week before the Olympics. So there was very low expectations. And then we tied Sweden, then we beat Czechoslovakia, and then we kept going on a roll. And we got into the game against the Russians. We had been well trained. We had played 60 hockey games together. It was a good team. We knew we were underdogs. We had nothing to lose. And Herb Brooks had really prepared us, to be world-class athletes. We had trained hard and we had played a great schedule. And oddly enough, we felt we could win that game. And we went into it with a really positive attitude. And we played 100 games. Maybe the Russians win 99 of them, but that was our night, and it was a fantastic thing for not just for us, but really for the entire country, which is sort of an amazing thing to say. And then we went on to beat the Finnish team 2 nights later in a magnificent game, and it's again one of those cherished moments in sports history.
Herb Brooks then invited you. He was with the Pittsburgh Penguins.
He was
you got involved afterwards as well.
Yeah, well, it's very interesting. So Craig Patrick, who was the assistant coach, became the general manager of the Pittsburgh Penguins, and I was working in real estate, but he was dying to get me back into hockey and asked me if I wanted to coach. My kids were young, and I had a nice job, so he convinced me to be a professional scout. And about a month afterwards, he hired Herb Brooks, so we ended up scouting together for many years, and we had it was really wonderful. He was a great human being, and we won the Stanley Cup 2 years in a row. So for me, that was, in America, if you can get your name on the Stanley Cup or get a Stanley Cup ring, that's about as good as it gets for our sport. And so I am privileged to not only have been part of the gold medal team, but also have my name on the Stanley Cup.
And can you bring those rings with you next month, or are they in a safety deposit box?
You know what? They're unbelievable. I keep them in my top sock drawer. So if anybody wants to break into my house, they can find 2 Stanley Cup rings there. And I will bring them back over if you'd like to see them. Yeah. Yes, they're magnificent rings. I never wear them, but
I'll
bring them on. And you can wear them. You can put it around your neck. And
Listen, Alf, I really appreciate your time, and thank you very much for being part of bringing the NCAA hockey to Belfast, as well as the Northern Ireland Connections this year.
Well,
and it's been a real privilege. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry. I'll have to say, for me too, it's an enormous privilege. Anytime you can use a sport, I think, to raise the awareness of great things that are going on in a city, it's a great opportunity. And the fact that it happens to be hockey is really makes me very proud to be associated with the Friendship 4.